Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of my Halloween week. If you're enjoying the week so far, please remember to hit that subscribe button down below, and if you have any case recommendations, please leave those in the comments. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about John Douglas White and the murder of Rebekah Gay. Rebekah was born March 26, 1988 in Midland, Michigan. She was 24 years old at the time of her murder. She had graduated high school in 2007 and went on to study cosmetology at the local college. She was a loving and devoted mother of her 3-year-old son, Conway, and she had been dating her longtime boyfriend, Aaron, for 3 years. They had been making plans for a future that unfortunately she would never see. Aaron later told investigators that he had been planning to propose to Rebekah Halloween night, 2012, the day that she died. John Douglas White was a pastor at Rebekah's church, Christ Community Fellowship in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. He was engaged to Rebekah's mother, Sally, and he lived just a few doors down from her in their shared trailer park. John had a violent criminal past that the church members say they were aware of when they hired him, but I couldn't necessarily find out if Sally was aware of it. And I have to assume that Sally or Rebekah had no idea about this past because on multiple occasions they allowed John to babysit Conway by himself. John had a history of very violent crimes against women for seemingly no real reason. His first known victim was 17-year-old Teresa Morris. She was one of his neighbors, and one day he lured her into his basement and he proceeded to stab and choke her. Thankfully, she survived this attack, and John was sentenced to 2 years in prison for this assault in 1981. His second victim was 22-year-old Vicky Sue Wall. At the time that he met Vicky, they were working together at the same establishment, and John was married with 2 kids and one on the way. Vicky and John were actually having an affair at this time. The last time that Vicky was ever seen alive was on security footage at about midnight in a grocery store parking lot getting into a black pickup truck with a bearded man, which matched John's description to a T. When John was eventually questioned by police in Vicky's disappearance, he said that he might have hurt her in one of his blackouts. His wife told police that he was a violent man with multiple personalities. Vicky was found just 6 weeks later, so badly decomposed because she was left out in a park in the elements, barely concealed by leaves, that prosecutors felt that they were lucky to convict John for involuntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to 8 to 15 years in 1994, but he served just 13 years before he was released. While in prison, he told his psychologist that he had fantasies of murdering and having sex with the dead bodies of his female lawyer and prosecutor. Both women were warned, but in 2011 he was released anyways. This is when he moved to Mount Pleasant and started working at the church. Like I said, John and Rebekah were just a few doors down from each other in their trailer park, which made it very easy on October 31st, 2012 for John to end up at Rebekah's home. John stated later that he was at home drinking anywhere from 4 to 5 beers and watching necrophilia porn when he decided it was time to act on his fantasies. He stated that he had been having fantasies of killing and having sex with the body of Rebekah for up to 2 weeks at this point. Around 2 a.m., he walked to her home, entered their front door, and attacked Rebekah with a rubber mallet until she was unconscious, and then he put a zip tie around her throat until she stopped breathing. All of this while Conway, her 3-year-old son, slept in the next room. John later said that he heard Rebekah say just before she died, "I know who you are." After dumping Rebekah's body in a nearby ditch and throwing all of her personal items into a dumpster, John took Rebekah's car to a nearby bar to make it look like she had been abducted from there. John then walked back to the trailer, woke up Conway, got him ready for his day, and put on his Halloween costume. He then proceeded to take the boy to a predetermined location so that his father could pick him up for the day. Rebekah was reported missing the next day, November 1st, after she failed to show up for her shift at the local Goodwill store. Upon hearing the news of Rebekah's disappearance, John called the church community leaders and asked that they start a prayer chain for the safe return of Rebekah. I'm not necessarily sure what led police to Douglas, but nevertheless, he was picked up the next day and later confessed. He then led investigators to Rebekah's body. He also told police that although he remembers removing all of Rebekah's clothing and touching her body, he can't necessarily remember if he performed any sexual acts on her, and that he remembers not being able to get an erection. Police later found traces of blood in both their trailers and one of Rebekah's daily necklaces in the back of John's truck. John pled guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 56 years in prison. The friends and family of Rebekah were in the courtroom asking for the maximum possible sentence. Rebekah's mother, Sally, spoke to the court, saying, and I quote, "I stand here today to be the voice of Rebekah because she no longer has a voice. Someone who showed no mercy to Rebekah is now on the mercy of this court." They were all asking why John was let out of prison twice before after committing heinous crimes against women. And unfortunately, there is no real answer to this besides the fact that the court system failed over and over again, as it does so many times for so many of these victims. Unfortunately, that is pretty much all of the information we have on Rebekah's case. As always, if I missed anything, please leave it down below, and all of my sources will be linked in the description box. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in tomorrow's episode. Bye, guys.